episode 3 of Brewing Skills course. In this episode, we will start finally to do the practical brewing. We will start with the 7 essential elements of brewing, and therefore I will start using manual gravity dripper. To be honest, I personally prefer origami dripper, so I will start there. And the recipes that I apply here, you can apply as well, or either on the V60, either on the Fellow or Kalita. Although there are certain differences in the gadget's shape, but they are all manual gravity drippers category, and similar recipes can be applied just for the beginning if you don't have a same gadget as me. So if you have a V60, you can apply the same recipes as I'm doing on origami dripper. So let's start and let's discuss about coffee to water ratio, what is the recommended specialty coffee range, and what are the differences when it's a little bit out of that range, which is also very possible and drinkable for some people. In the same way, while I'm doing and performing the brewing and explaining the variables, I will use the brewing control chart to compare different variables, and I will explain you how brewing control chart is working, and I will explain you as well some parameters that we need to pay attention on, such as TDS of coffee and extraction rate. So all of that you have already in the PDF file in this curriculum, but as well I will go step by step and I will explain everything practically. So let's start. So to successfully start our brewing session, we need to provide a couple of things. We need a grinder for our coffee beans. We need a coffee beans as well. We need a brewer. We need a server. We need a filter in this case, and most probably throughout all of the course we will use the paper filter. And we need a scale, and we need a kettle for the hot water and for the pouring water over the coffee as well. So now when we have all the elements that we need to start our brewing, let's do our first brew. For our first origami dripper today, I will use 18 grams. So if you want your dose to be 18 grams, it's always recommended to put a little bit more, like 18.5 or 19. So regardless of your dose, it's always recommended to put half gram or 1 gram more, because grinder will have some retention, so you can have your exact dose that you have in plan. So we have 18 grams of the beans. Before we grind the beans, we want to make our water hot, because we want to brew the coffee. We want to brew coffee as soon as we grind the beans, because when we grind the beans are starting to losing the aromas and losing the freshness, the gassing. So the later we brew, the less aromatics and less flavor in the coffee we will have. So from that side, we make sure that our water is hot. So we prepare our server and we can grind our coffee. Before dosing our ground coffee into the brewer, we need to rinse the paper filter with hot water. This step is important and is done with each and every brew that you're doing with the paper filter. This step is important because we want to preheat the server, preheat the dripper, and to rinse the paper, so to not transfer paper flavor into the eventual paper flavor into the cup. So once we have rinsed, we need to discard that water. Now let's dose our freshly grounded beans. So I said I will use 18 grams. of ground coffee. "18 grams doesn't need to be a fixed coffee dose for the brewing for your gadgets. You can use 15, 16, up to 20, 25, depends on the size of the gadgets. Usually origami dripper, this size, 02 size, and the V60 02 size, I prefer dose of ground coffee between 18 and 20 grams. So in this case it's 18. Now we need to calculate how much of water we want to pour over. Specialty Coffee is recommending ratio from 1 to 15 to 1 to 20. That means that the strongest option with the less water, as per their recommendation, means that on 1 gram of the coffee we should dose 15 grams of the water. I say grams because we will also scale the water that it's pouring over. It will not be in mLs, it will be in the grams. And the lightest should be on 1 gram of the coffee to add 20 grams of the water. For the start, let's do something in between, and let's start with a ratio 1 to 17. So on 1 gram of our coffee we will add 17 grams of water. That means on 18 grams of coffee, grounded coffee, we need to add how much water? So you need to take a calculator, you need to take your coffee dose, which is 18 grams, to multiply with the ratio that you want to use. I want to use 1 to 17, and then you will get your water dose. In this case, that's 306 grams. And that's our recipe, or our recommended ratio that we will use for this first coffee. After this first coffee, then I will use 2 more ratios. I will use one very short ratio, very strong, with lower than the recommendation. So lowest recommendation is 1 to 15. I will apply on the second brew, I will apply ratio 1 to 13, which will be very strong. So I will keep the same dose, same grind size, and the same water temperature on 93. The only thing that I will change is the water dose, and it will be on 1 gram of the coffee, 13 grams of the water. And on our third brew, I will do everything the same, just I will increase the ratio, and on the 1 gram of coffee, I will use 21 gram of the water. So those second and third coffee, it will be out of the Specialty Coffee recommended ratio. So let's start with the first one. When we are doing manual brewing, we need to follow certain steps. So we have a scale, we dose our coffee. Now we need to tar our scale to show 0. So on that way we know how much water we have added. Once when we start to add water, extraction of the coffee starts. So we need to start the timer once when we start to add the coffee, and now extraction has started. First, what we need to do, this is the first stage of the coffee, which is called pre-wetting, or popularly blooming. In this stage, we are pre-wetting our coffee bed and releasing the gases out of the coffee and preparing the coffee bed for uniform extraction. Usually, this stage, it's taking up to 30-35 seconds. Me personally, I like 45 seconds to leave for the pre-wetting stage or for the blooming. Usually for the blooming ratio, it's 3 times more than dose, 2 to 3 times more than coffee dose. 45 seconds came. Now we can pour all the way till the end at once if you want. In generally, it's not recommended. The more you are giving the time water to have a contact with coffee, the more you will extract. So me, I prefer 3 times pour. Can be 1, can be twice, can be 3 times, 4 times, depends of you. But what is the most important now in this stage, it's to reach that yield that we have calculated. So 18 grams of the coffee multiplied 17 will give us 306 grams of water, and that's what we want to apply here. Pouring should be uniformed with uniform water flow from the kettle and uniform moves. In my case, I'm using circular moves from outer to the inner side, and then when I reach inner side, I'm going back again to outer side. You can pour all in the middle, you can do a lot of things, but this is for me something that I have used to it and most uniform pour that I'm applying when I'm brewing my coffee. Since I have added the coffee, now what is left is to wait the coffee to extract, to measure the time. When time for us comes to talk about grind size, we will see how different grind sizes are affecting the different brewing time and time of extraction. So for now we will not play with that. For now we are explaining coffee to water ratio. In this case we have used 18 grams of the ground coffee and 306 grams of the water, which gives us a ratio of 1:17, which is somewhere in the middle when it comes to the specialty coffee recommendation. Specialty coffee recommendation, again, it's from 1:15 to 1:20, which is mostly applied for the manual gravity drippers, automatic gravity drippers, and immersion methods. Okay, our coffee is almost done, and the time of extraction it's 3 minutes and 5 seconds. We have a nice and uniform coffee bed with a flat bottom, and looks pretty much uniform, which is very important for us. Now when I have finished this coffee, I will make 2 more coffees. Second coffee will be ratio 1:13, which is the stronger than SCA recommendation, and the third coffee will be 1:121, which is the lighter than the SCA recommendation. And once when I finish that, we will compare those 3 different coffees. We will compare the strength, we will compare the extraction rate and flavor profile in generally, and that's how we will discuss differences between the different coffee different ratios applied. Okay, our coffees are ready. We have 3 different ratios. So logically we have 3 coffees with a different amount of coffee in the server. So we have a server with the most coffee, which is the ratio 1:21. So same dose of the coffee is used, which is 18 grams, and same grind size, same temperature as well, 93 degrees. So what we have changed, only we have changed the ratio, we have changed the amount of water that we add to the coffee or to the dose of 18 grams. So we have one coffee with ratio 1:21, which means that on 18 grams of coffee we have used 378 grams of water. Then we have one coffee with a ratio 1:13, which means that on 18 grams of coffee we have used 234 grams of water. And we have one ratio 1:17, which means that on 18 grams of coffee we were using 306 grams of water. Here we get a little bit more, 311 grams of water. Anyhow, so 1:17 is a recommended ratio by Specialty Coffee. This is a little bit stronger and this should be lighter. So here we have a TDS refractometer where we will test our coffees on the strength. Once when we get the strength, for the strength we have a standard between 1.15 and 1.45. Once we get the strength, we will cross the lines with the lines of ratio, and we will get our extraction rate, which will tell us if it's coffee properly extracted or not properly extracted. So let's start slowly, and let's start with the first coffee that I made, and I have made ratio 1:17, which is a recommended specialty coffee ratio, and let's test strength of that coffee. So we need to take a pipette and to take water and to dose into the, take coffee and to dose into the TDS refractometer. Once when we dose, no need to be full, just a couple of drops without any bubbles if possible. We need to close VST refractometer and to press go. To press one more go, and now it will read for us. It says around 1.35 is TDS. So we are still in the range, since range is between 1.15 and 1.45. We can press it a couple of times until we get the same number continuously. Since coffee is already cold, so it will not change the numbers. So what is very important, once when we brew coffee, we want to take a sample out in the 1 cup, so we can cool that coffee on the room temperature before we put into the TDS refractometer, since if it's very hot coffee, readings will not be so precise. So, since this coffee is already cooled down until I finish all 3 coffees, I will press 3 times, and our TDS for this coffee is 135. So that means that we are here in between 115 and 145, which is telling us that we are in the range for the recommended specialty coffee range for the strength. So we have a TDS 135, we will mark 135 here. Now, since we know that we use ratio 1:17, we will find, so on the side, this side here, we have numbers such as 1:12, 1:13, 1:14, 1:15, 16, 17, all to up to 22. That side for the ratio. And those diagonal lines on the control brew charts are for the ratio. Here we have a TDS, and here we have extraction. So we need to merge to find first reading for TDS, or the strength of the coffee, which we found successfully, and it's on 135. We have a ratio 1:17. Now we want to cross those 2 lines, and we will get it here. And then our extraction is exactly 21. So this coffee is the recommended specialty coffee range, and when it comes to the TDS and when it comes to the extraction. Recommended range for extraction is 18 to 22%. If it's less than 18, that coffee will be considered as under extracted. If it's more than 22, that coffee will be considered as 22%. That coffee will be considered as over extracted. In this case, our ratio 1:17 is showing us strength of 1.35, which is in the recommended range, and total extraction of 21%, which is between 18 and 22. So this coffee is in specialty coffee recommended range. Now we have 2 other coffees, and let's test the TDS for those. We need to wipe to remove the coffee first that we put inside. Usually we are using paper tissues to remove the coffee from the previous reading. And now let's take coffee which is made on the ratio 1:13 ratio. So dose of the coffee here is the same, 18 grams, but we have applied less water. Logical thing that's going to happen here is that this coffee will be a little bit stronger, because it will be more concentrated since we put less water. And it's showing us 1.68. 2 times, let's see, third time. So 1.68 is a pretty much strong, and we have used 1:13 ratio. So 1.68 is here, and our range is from 1:15 to 1. So we have a stronger coffee than specialty coffee recommended ratio. When we cross the line with a ratio of 1:13, which is here, we will find our coffee in the field of strong. But still, this coffee is properly extracted since, let me put it carefully down, extraction is 19.2. So here we have a coffee which is still properly extracted, but it's strong. So practically what's happening is that I know a lot of coffee shops, I know a lot of people Me personally, when I'm making coffee, when I was barista and still when I'm making coffee, I'm using mostly ratio 1:16, 1:17, and most of the time my coffee is here in specialty coffee recommended range. Since I'm working in the specialty coffee industry for a long time and I'm calibrated with, but I know a lot of people and a lot of coffee shops which are serving coffees, filter coffees 1:12, 1:13, which are very strong, and they're not in balance. But they're doing that because their customers like strong coffee. So basically with this coffee nothing is wrong. It's in general out of specialty coffee recommended standard for the brewing, but still it's properly extracted, just it's a bit stronger than what is a recommendation, so that means it's not completely in the balance, it's a bit stronger. But still nothing is wrong with that coffee. So if you're serving that coffee, you need to know if you're serving coffee like that. So if you're serving filter coffee with ratio 1:13, you need to be aware that that coffee is definitely out of the specialty coffee recommendation standard. But still nothing is wrong with that coffee. If your customers like it like that and you still want to serve it like that, I don't mind. It's time for our third coffee. As per my experience, people usually are not preferring the light coffees. So this is a third coffee, which is the same dose of the ground coffee, 18 grams, but we have applied much more water. In this case 378 grams, which is giving us ratio 1:21. So what's happening here, based on previous two coffees, you can guess probably that strength of this coffee will be lower because we have applied much more water and we made it lighter. So reading is 108. We will press a couple of times until repeat the same. Okay, it's 1.11. So 1.11 it's here for the strength. 1.11% for the strength, yeah. So that's now again out of the recommended specialty coffee range, and it's lighter. Logically, because we have applied more water. In this case, we have used ratio 1:21. When we cross the lines and strength of 1.11, we will find that 1:21 is here, 1.11 is here. Our coffee is weak, but still properly extracted. 21.8, 22 is maximum. So what's happening here? If we have added a little bit more of water, we will probably go in over extracted as well. So basically this is something that people will not like. From 10 people, 9 people will not like this coffee for sure. Because when they're drinking coffee, they want to feel a little bit stronger coffee flavor, and that's why they're preferring strong coffee, and they can be educated and they can learn to appreciate the specialty coffee balanced recommendation for the balanced coffee. But when it comes to the weak section, usually people are not such a fan of weak coffee, and that's something that probably will not be recommended to make. So we have 3 coffees done. We were using the same amount of ground coffee, same dose, which is 18 grams. We have used the same temperature, which is 93. We have used different ratios, so that means that we have applied different water amount. We have used 306 grams of water, 234 grams of water, and 378 grams of water, which is giving us different results of the coffee extraction. Most recommended by specialty is this one, since it's the most balanced with the strength and with extraction. Both are in the range. But if you are making this one as well in your daily routine while you're brewing the coffee in the shop or in your home, if you prefer strong coffee, I'm okay with that. If your customers prefer strong coffee, I'm okay. But you need to be aware that when you're talking about specialty coffee, that coffee is out of recommended range for the balanced brew by specialty coffee. So now we have a little bit clearer picture how the different ratios are affecting our coffee profile, let's talk about grind size next episode. So see you in the next episode, and we will test a different grind sizes, and while we will use the same coffee to water ratio, which will be this one, which is this is going to be a reference, and we will use different grind sizes. We will use one finer and one coarser than this one in order to compare how the coffee will be affected with the different grind sizes while keeping the same ratio this time. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.